Hey everybody, welcome to episode 77 of the LiveCast Conversations with Powered by Pealed back. As always, I'm your host, Coach Gene, and on today's episode, we have my good friend Likky Lavji on. Likky was on episode 5. It was the first time we switched to the StreamYard platform back in October 21st, 2020. So a lot of things have changed since then, and I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation. Likky is a sought-after keynote speaker, and he is a passionate helper of others breaking barriers to unleash their human potential. In fact, his middle name translates to help, and he channels this into providing value in every relationship he has, personal and professional. Likky's extensive experience in executive leadership has given him a unique perspective that remains uncharted by leaders and organizations in understanding the layers beneath human behavior and how it impacts growth and productivity. Likky, my words cannot do you justice, brother. Thank you so much for being on the show again.
Gene, you're incredible. Thank you for having me. And I can't believe that was a year and a half ago we did the first podcast.
Yeah, when I went back and looked, I'm pretty sure it's episode 5, and I'm like, what was the date of that? I'm like, wow, just the comparison of then to now, where things have come, and what a great kind of, I think, metaphor to like shape everything else that's happened between then and now. That it's always, like we were talking about it before we got on, it's a journey.
Yeah, life is a journey, isn't it? I love where you've ended up right now and the clarity that you've got. Actually, is it the clarity or is it foggy? I'm not sure.
We're getting beyond the fog, I hear.
Yeah, and I say that because I'm in the Okanagan right now, and I know I love the drive up here, but there's that one part of the connector I just can't stand. You never know. You could be sunny and gorgeous, and you hit that one part of the connector, and it's fog.
Yeah, almost like clockwork, and it's always in generally that same spot, and it's I don't know, I just love the metaphor of that. Is like when you get through, and it's thick there too, right? It's like slow down, fog lights on, trust that you're going to get through, hope you find the big truck that you can use the lights to fall through and get through.
Well, not too close. You don't want to hit it too close. But that's the thing, isn't life like that for all of us? Where we're running with blinders on, we're like in a haze or in a dark haze once in a while, and we're looking for that opening. And the only person that can give us that opening is ourselves.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So tell me, Gene. I know you're supposed to be asking me questions. So, you know me.
I knew it was going to get, the script was going to get flipped right away, so I just have accepted that with you.
No, but when we first started, we actually met just over 2 years ago, and yeah. I love the conversations we had. We met at a coffee shop out in Kelowna, and I love how we connected on what's happening, where you're at, and you've transformed from, wanting to be a coach to this incredible coach that you are today, and transforming people's lives by getting some clarity for them.
Yeah.
You and I work together on Blindspot Global, where we have coaches and we engage them to help us get in front of people to find their blind spots using our assessment tool. As a coach, you and I both know that it takes such a long time to find blind spots.
Okay.
Actually, I want to rephrase that. You see blind spots right off the bat, but it takes a long time to have the trust so you can call some of these blind spots out.
Well, yeah, I would say when you're working from a coaching perspective, you can see it, and it's amazing how often other people will see those blind spots, but how open are we to that information? I guess there's a component, like I was about to say, feedback, but like sometimes that can feel like criticism. Sometimes that can feel like it hits that blind spot, and the unfulfilled love just like spews out of that area, and you go, nope, don't want that. Versus getting to a point that you can be guided into that and stand in it and experience it all, right? Like that's one of the great things about what you and Kevin are doing with Blindspot Global, is like bringing a bit of a flashlight to it and go, are you ready to explore?
Kevin and I love Kevin. He's done such an incredible job working with this assessment that we've launched. But over the last year, we've been working really diligently on coming up with a leadership program, because we were going into organizations and working with teams and executives and finding their blind spots, and it just wasn't transforming teams. So now we've come up with a leadership program that actually goes in and transforms the entire team in a matter of 16 weeks.
Yeah.
But it actually sticks. Those things where, I'm a keynote speaker. I love doing it. Kind of. I kind of love doing it. I like speaking, you know me. I love talking, but I just don't get that feedback of transformation happening that sticks. Because when you're up there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes and talking, you see these aha moments in people's lives. I just don't know what they're doing with them when they get home.
Right.
Right. And if I was to ask you, what's the last keynote you remember? You may have remembered one and probably got one takeaway out of it.
Yeah.
And that person spoke for an hour with like 300 takeaways and we only got one.
Yeah.
And it probably didn't stick that well. So we're transforming the way we deliver our program so that it actually sticks for them and the entire teams, and it transforms their lives all around them.
Right.
But let's go back to this whole fog thing, right? Imagine we're driving and we don't check our blind spots and we get hit.
Yeah.
We're going to complain.
Every time.
But we don't look in the mirror and look for our own blind spots. We keep on getting hit with them and keep on squashing us down. The limiting belief keeps on coming up. You're not good enough. You don't belong.
Yeah.
I don't deserve this. Why do those things exist?
It's a story. It's that narrative that we somehow got ingrained into us at some point, and hopefully it wasn't intentional, but there's those stories and those experiences start to stick. And as we know, like, a lot of that comes from our youth, like very young, formidable years.
Yeah. I remember when I was with you back in episode 5, I shared a story about my stutter. So I'm not going to reshare that again, but I want to just share something that just came up for me in the last couple of weeks. I'm going through some personal family issues right now, and one of the things that really lit up for me this last week was this expectation setting, expectation of love, expectation of care. And when we did that, we look at ourselves and we say we have this expectation up here of somebody or something.
Yeah.
And they reach here. And
gap.
That gap, that's where the narrative start of, I don't deserve this, you don't love me, you don't care about me, I don't belong, I'm not good enough. That's because I had an expectation up here, but the others are being normal at here. They're not in my mind, I'm not in their mind. How do we know? But this silly gap here takes over.
Oh, yeah.
So what I've learned is drop, like not even slowly, just get rid of it. Take the person where they're at and appreciate them for what they're doing. I like Tony Robbins. I don't love Tony Robbins, but I do respect him as a man. But he's got one saying that I really use over and over again. He says, trade your expectations for appreciation and life changes instantly.
Oof. That's a powerful statement.
It really is. Trade your expectations for appreciation and life changes instantly. Now, easier said than done. Easier said than done. What are the blind spots that are stopping us from even having that conversation about, I don't have high expectations, that's the way it should be. Blind spot number 1.
Yeah. There it is, staring you right in the face.
Yeah. And then appreciating the person for where they're at, because you're expecting them to be somewhere else, but you don't get to appreciate them where they're at. Yeah. And that's what we need to start looking at, is appreciating the people where they're at. And, Gene, I told you earlier today, and we were chatting, you're an incredible human being. I am a good person. I've made some mistakes,
Mm-hmm. We all have.
but those mistakes don't define us. They don't make us a bad person. We did a bad thing. It's the action that's wrong. As long
Yeah.
as you learn from it, don't do it again, apologize for it, and move on. Don't feel guilty about it at that point. You can learn from it.
Yeah.
But the moment we convert that into that mistake made me a bad person, then you're never going to get out of it.
Well, that's shifting from that action place of like I did something, not my brightest moment, and I can learn from it, and now look what I've been able to accomplish from it. Versus saying I did this thing that makes me a bad person. Now we're talking about identity. Now we're talking about like wrapping it around. You've set that identity, set that belief, and like how much energy, like just I thinking from like a pure like energy perspective, now has to go in to maintaining that belief at all costs.
Yeah. So, what's next? How do you find that out? How does one like? Tell me. You talk about you're beyond the fog. What's the fogginess that you want to clear?
I think it's different for everybody, but it comes from when I think about the fog. It definitely comes from this place of like lack, right? Like in some shape or form, it's this lack of connection. It's this lack of perspective, and I say perspectives plural. It's this lack of connection. It's a lack of like. I think there's this lack of trust. I think underneath it of all is like this lack of trust. Trust in life, trust in yourself, trust in the others that you choose to create your most intimate environment with.
I love what you just said there. Trust in yourself and then trust in others. So trust yourself and trust the process that there is a destiny that we're all aiming for. And we just don't know what that is. So trust where you're at and enjoy it.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about, damn, I'm having a bad week. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. Have some self-compassion and allow that bad week to occur.
Yeah.
You don't need to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm having a bad week. Come and save me." That's martyrism. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, sit in that murk for a little while. Sit in that murk. Feel it. Feel that hurt. So then you know how to get out of it.
Well, I think there's a component of knowing what there has to be. I don't know who or where this original thought came from, but it's just like, how are you going to know the light if you don't know the dark, and vice versa, right? Like, how do you know what really greatness is if you haven't tasted like your bitter moments? Like, you need to have those, or else again, like, we get back into this gray, to this fog. It's just like, then you get all this stuff that just is. You're like, I don't know, it's neither good nor bad. I'm like not excited, nor like I'm just kind of stuck in this place. It's like, well, why not like step into it and be like, dare to go be like, do I like this? No. Oh, now I know what I don't like. Now I can use this to inform how I show up. And then you have this choice of going, are these some actions? Or are we at a milestone marker of like, oh, I'm about to like redefine my identity. Now all of a sudden, like, you become the creator, the artist, the storyteller in your own shoes, right? When we talk about that trust, like when you reflected the trust back, is like there was a component of, I think there's so many points in our journey that we screw up the steps for that trust. It starts external. Be like, do these people trust me? Do the people close to me trust me? Okay, maybe then I can start to trust me. Be like, no, it's got to start here and radiate out.
Yeah, it actually does, right? Everything has to start within ourselves. So to be authentic, understanding our behaviors and our actions and our perceptions, understanding where we're lacking and what we're lacking for, and then working through it.
Yeah.
The hardest part, I know I made the biggest mistake, is projecting my lack on others. And that impacted life for a lot of people around me. And my biggest one was trust. When I was 3 years old, my dad passed away. And when I was 5, my grandfather passed away. And say at 16, my best friend passed away in a car accident on the way from Calgary to Vancouver. And at 40, my cousin passed away in a car accident. So I'm like, okay, so the moment I get close to somebody, they're going to pass away anyways. What's the point? I can't trust anybody. And I turned that around. And when my daughter was 3 years old, we were driving to Tofino, and we stopped off in Port Alberni for a Subway sandwich. And we're with some friends, we're just chatting away. We'd finish lunch. And all of a sudden, the door opens up on the side, and I kind of hear that creak. And then the next thing I hear is this car screech. Almost hits my daughter. Now, as a father, you never forget that.
No.
What I did forget was when I ran over to pick her up. I picked her up and I just held her so tight. But I said the words, "I'm never letting you go."
Mm.
What that turned into was a helicopter parent protecting his daughter. For me, that was my perspective. For her side was, Dad doesn't trust me. Why is he watching over everything I do? Why is he always in my face? I didn't want to get hurt and lose her as well.
Yeah.
But look at my purpose and vision versus what she was getting.
Yeah.
Same action, same thing, two different stories.
That's that power of those plural perspectives, right? Like there's one like thing happening, but depending on where you were sitting watching that and experiencing it, two wildly different experiences were happening from it.
Yeah. I'm sitting outside right now watching the water. Somebody could say, "Boy, it's cold out there and it's wavy." And I'm like, God, it's peaceful and it's relaxing, and I'm enjoying the sun glimmering off the water. It's the same damn water.
And it comes back to that perspectives and the gap between the perspective and then what happens.
Yeah. But, Gene, we're all human beings, though, right? There's no manual given to us about anything. There's a lot of articles out there. There's a lot of books out there, I've written a book. Does that mean that I'm right?
We got this one here. Death by BS.
Yeah, this one here.
BS can stand for whatever you need it to be sometimes.
Well, you know what? It is the BS that's in between our ears that's getting us in trouble. But just because I've written a book, does that mean I am the guru at this? It's just my thoughts and my opinions and my perceptions of it. And there's 10,000 other books around Blindspot as well.
Yeah.
But it's who we show up as. Who are we? And do we know who we are on an ongoing basis?
Ooh.
And I've been on this journey since 2012 to find out what ticks for me. Why am I who I am? The trust issues came up at that point. The lack of, the stutter issue went away because of that. There's a lot of things I've learned. But boy, I'd say being aware, I'm looking for blind spots on an ongoing basis. And I look at it from a learning perspective. But boy, gee, that hurts. It hurts every time you find one. But being aware of it, it's up to me to choose what I want to do with it now.
Mm. Well, I think there's an important piece there is like the acceptance that if you're open to the learning and open to the awareness, that it's going to sting every single time. It's like, oh, I didn't see that coming because it was in your blind spot. You're not supposed to see it coming, and it's supposed to do that, right? And still going, oh, hey, now I can continue to move on. It's like there's, I think for other people that might enjoy working out, be like, you go hit it hard, be like you haven't used that muscle before. It's going to hurt the next day. And that's part of the process.
So if you think about that process of learning, how do you feel when you are I called you out last week at the open forum, and I just said to you, just ready to get those hours back. This is what you got to do.
Yeah.
But you and I have a good relationship. We have a trusted relationship. You wouldn't expect anything less from me to call out the BS.
I don't want our gap to get like that. I hold a high expectation for you to see it and call it out. And you live to it all the time.
But you allow that as well, right, Gene? You
Yeah.
allow that because I know you want to grow and you want to learn and you're open to that. One of the biggest things in coaching is building that trust with people to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
How do you build that trust?
It's an interesting question. Like that rapport and that true trust. Like, again, I think it has to, like, if you're going to be putting in that spot, like, there's a component of, like, now I know I've sat in that position of, like, oh, okay, how am I going to do this? There's a little bit of, like, faking it till you make it, but there is some power in, like, stepping into it, because you have to step into a position of being open to trust and open for a trust to be reciprocal. You can, like, put your own little self-talk and your saboteurs on the shelf for a minute. I like to put them in the little Tesla and leave them with the windows up. That's beside the point. And dive into it, right? Like, I think the trust comes from this place of, like, are you just open to the experience, open to whatever comes, and it's like pulling your piece about the perception versus expectations. Be like, you're just going, cool, here we are. I don't have the expectations, and my perception is that I'm going to trust with you wherever that comes and show up for you in that moment. And because then they can go, oh, thank God. This isn't about judging. This isn't about anything else. This is about exploring. This is about being in the discomfort.
But allowing that to happen naturally with with clients and with people that were around us. You know, as we were talking about this, I sit back and say, you know, the biggest issue that a lot of us have is imposter syndrome.
Yep.
Right? Do I belong? Do I belong to do this? Am I good enough to do this? Why am I on this podcast, Gene? Like, what do I have to offer?
So much.
Well, that's your perception. Sometimes
it is.
When I wake up, I'm like, I have no idea. But we all have that. The highest CEOs have this imposter syndrome. How does one even realize that they have it? And that's what's stopping them from being the best that they want to be at.
Yeah. Interesting. What do you think? Where do you go for that?
If we go back to the conversation we're having about being authentic and understanding why you are the way you are, and if there is this lack and there's this conversation around, you know, what's stopping you from becoming this incredible human being and showing up authentically for yourself? There's perceptions, there's actions and behaviors that happen to you when you were way young that caused you to behave the way you are. You know, I use, I've talked to you about this before, scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
You know, that is such a big issue for a lot of us. But it's not something new that's happened. It's been your lifelong way of behavior. That could have been, you know, you were 7 years old and you were given $2 to go as an allowance, and you walked to the corner candy store and you bought all this candy out of it, and you come back home and your parents go, "What? You bought $2 worth of candies? I can't believe that." And all of a sudden, you're being frugal because your parents wanted to educate you, but now you became scarcity mindset for your entire life. But scarcity isn't just about money. It's about love.
Oh, it's about everything.
It's about giving. It's about everything. And that's what ends up happening. And then you wonder, why do I have this? Well, you have this because of what your past was. And that's it.
So it's about getting beyond the story of your past, is like seeing it. And there's also, you know, when I hear you talk about it like this, Likky, is like there's a component of like closing that gap as well. Be like that, not just accepting for the people, but accepting for the story. Be like, it's okay that was there and no longer. My expectation is that story is there, and I'm aware of this story now. I can see it coming, and it's not actually part of my future expectations around how I'm going to show up.
You know, it's interesting. We're both wearing these lovely AirPods. I just wish they would just keep on telling our stories up here that they're wrong. And get rid of that narrative and just become who we really authentically are, right? Because It's this stuff here between the ears that's getting in our way. Period.
Oh, 100%. And every time it's the BS that we come up to fill those gaps to tell the story, right? Like there's now, hopefully no one takes this from like a perspective of you just got to keep doing and doing and doing, but if we just let our minds do what they're off on their own in their default mode network, they're wired for survival. Survival just means to keep you breathing and potentially keep you breeding. And that is it. And it does all kinds of horrible like things to get there because it doesn't have a set direction. So it's just going to like go off and do its thing. Be like, are you surviving? Can I keep you breeding? Cool. That's it. Be like, that's a pretty low barrier. And a lot of like horrible things can happen in between that. And part of that keeping you alive is like constantly looking for all the bad things. We don't have saber-toothed tigers chasing us into a cave anymore. Yet, we're still programmed to react as if we are.
Oh, we have those demons that are in there all the time.
They're chasing us all the time. Like, those stories end up being the saber-toothed tigers chasing us into our cave.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, my business partner, he was actually in prison for 33 months for a crime that, anyways, he was guilty. He went in and he was, so, him and I did a keynote back in December and we talked about that. And he said, look, I was in prison. I was physically in prison. But then I turned around and said, I was in prison for 40 years in my own head with this narrative that I was carrying. I'm not good enough. Gene, I don't know if people can understand this, whoever's watching that. I held on to the words, go back to where you came from when I was 10 years old for 40 years. And those words caused me to have a stutter. I didn't belong. I'm not good enough. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And when I heard those words when I was 10 years old, the next day, the life of Likky with a stutter started. And it went away when my good friend Bob Berg actually sat me down and said, listen to these words. You are a good person. You deserve this. You belong. We trust you. We like you. And I actually heard those words. And 40 years of a narrative between these silly ears that ran my life. Those demons were there.
Mm-hmm.
I can pinpoint to where and how that happened, but, I just can't even imagine the people that I hurt on the way because I was protecting myself.
There it is. Yeah. You were trying to protect yourself and ended up potentially hurting others for it.
Yeah, until I realized what I had done, and then letting go all of that. That guard and the law of, which Kevin and I call this the law of the facade. We put up this armor, this wall for ourselves to protect us. And the moment we get triggered, that wall goes up.
Yeah.
And nobody's penetrating it.
No, it's an impenetrable fortress, and it serves a purpose, and it also needs to be like, okay, I don't need to bring you up. Be like, look what I can create. Look at the way that I can protect myself. Be like, there may have been a time that was the right thing to do. And be like, and now that time has passed. Like identifying that, I think, is just that in its own is like owning that part. Like I can relate I talk about my walls and everything else is like, I'm 40. I turned 42. I turned 42 this month. And like, it took me 41 years to realize, oh, these walls can come down on my own choice. And I can leave them down even if I feel endangered. Like, it's a brand new world.
I was watching, this is an old video that's been circulating. It's Bob Newhart's Stop It video. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Maybe, I don't know.
If you get a chance, let's do a search on Bob Newhart. And this is probably before your days. Do you even know who Bob Newhart is?
I know. I remember the Newhart show and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's got this little clip about Stop It. He gets this person into his office. He's a psychiatrist, right? And he goes, I'm just going to charge you $5 for the first 5 minutes. And then that's all it's going to take, as long as you pay attention. And he goes through this whole thing and says, there's only 2 words I need you to remember. And she goes, "Do you want me to write this down?" He goes, "Well, no, most people can remember these 2 words." And she's like, and he goes, "Okay, so what's the issue?" She goes, "Well, I dream that I'm being buried alive in this box." Right? That's her narrative.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Are you actually being buried alive in the box?" "No." So then he goes, "Okay, you ready for the words? Stop it."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What do you mean?" "Just stop thinking it. Just stop it."
Yeah.
You know, it's so easier said than done, right, Gene?
Yeah.
You know, our mind races because of our perceptions and our behaviors from the past, that we want to go somewhere. We create this narrative and we start living this narrative, which isn't really real. All we have to do is say, stop it and move on, but we can't. We've got to do the work. We got to unravel that demon and put it away.
Yeah.
And the only way we can do that is work with people like ourselves, read and be self-aware. You know, we're doing this conversation around self-awareness, and there's a study that shows 90 to 95% of us think that we're self-aware. Do you know what the reality is?
Oh, much smaller than 95%.
10 to 15% are self-aware.
I was going to say 10%.
Yeah. So think about it. 1 in 15 people are actually self-aware.
Yeah.
Right? I'm aware I get angry, but that doesn't mean call yourself aware. That's not self-aware, people. What self-aware is understanding why you got angry and what you got to do about it.
Well, and yeah, I think there's that component of like you see it, and now what are the actions for it, so that you can actually create a little bit of a buffer the next time that story goes, boop, oh, I need to come up and protect you right now, right? Be like, oh, I see the story, and I'm going to pause before I choose my next action. That's the epitome for me of like what I've found for that self-awareness is like, can I create the gap between my reaction and my actions? Like, you just, and add on to that is like what I've learned recently is like, well, creation and reaction are all the same letters. They're just mixed up. So you can choose to be in reaction or in creation. Your pick.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, Gene, you're always an incredible podcast interviewer. We just go on all different conversations.
Well, it's just because I have these incredible guests, and I had people that saw something, a perspective in me that I didn't see before to allow me to get here. So, and thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. You know, you bring more value to me than you even know it. You know, just the connections and the relationship that we've had, the conversations we get, where I learn from you every time I talk. And I think as a leader and as a coach, we have to feel that everybody around us is that for us. So the people who teach us and we learn from them on an ongoing basis. And allowing that to happen allows us to be these incredible human beings. So thank you.
Well, it's all part of like I think it was our friend Neil Pretty who once said, be like, the work's never done, right? Like people that say I've done the work, be like, no, you're starting, but maybe you don't ever actually get to stop doing it, right? So
No.
If you want the juiciness of life, if you want the excitingness of life, if you want to close the gaps, if you want to be able to be at peace knowing that you're going to see the blind spots and they're going to sting, be like, you got to keep doing the work. You want the joyous life? Then get really descriptive about it and know it takes consistent daily effort to do.
Yeah. And the work is never done.
No.
Being on
and that
the
takes
hunt.
us back to where we started, is like you talking about enjoying the process.
I was out for a walk a few months ago and I hit this incredible waterfall. Oh, did I lose you?
Nope, I'm still here.
Oh, you're frozen on my screen. I don't know if I've...
Oh, no. I can hear you.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the finger pointing. Oh, what's going on? Technical issues. Come on, camera.
Love it. Love it.
Switch change up the camera view.
I got your back. I'll keep on talking. How's that?
All right.
There you go.
Camera 2.
Ooh, camera 2. I love it. Backup cameras. When I was doing this walk and I hit this waterfall, and there was, when you see the waterfall coming down, there's this murkiness at the bottom of it.
Mm.
And it's all riptides and things are just moving really fast. Sometimes when things are going wrong for us, that's where we end up. We end up in that ugliness of our lives, right? If you try and swim out of that really fast, you might just drown. You take a deep breath and let it just flow out of that. You will end up in this pool of water that's calmer. I didn't say it's perfect. It's calmer.
Calmer.
But we forget that. We forget when we're in that ugliness, we want to get out. We're survival. We want to just jump away at it. And then we just drown. Or we might get out of it, then we're back into it again because we just make it to that next riptide and we're back in. And now we're so tired that we have no room to get back.
You got nothing left to fight through.
Nothing left
right?
in you. Nothing left up here. It's all gone, right? And physically, you're done as well. So we just need to remember that when you're in that murkiness, just sit and enjoy it. It's hard to imagine you're going to enjoy murkiness. But sit and process it and let it naturally flow out.
Well, it's got so many great lessons to it, right? Like, and I love that metaphor of like the waterfall as you're describing it. I can see it hitting the bottom, and it's just got all the frothiness of it. The spray is happening everywhere, and underneath the water is like it's just spinning. It's spinning and it's like shaving rocks, and it's creating a new pool underneath. Like it's doing a lot of creation. It's like pure chaos. And part of it as well is like you already know where it's going because you can see the stream that's coming out of it. The calm stream.
You know, Gene, we've been talking for 40 minutes now.
Yeah.
Close to it. Let's think about how we can help people that are listening to us. I mean, you're an incredible coach. I do some coaching as well.
Yes. 2 incredible coaches.
What is a couple of takeaways for people? We've been talking about this blind spots and fogginess and murkiness and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let's help some people out right now about what they're dealing with. So one of the biggest things I get told is, I don't know what my future looks like. I don't deserve this, or I'm not good enough for this. Do I deserve that next promotion? What happens over here? What happens over there? What's the next thing? And then I work with executives and say, my teams just don't get it. How come they're not listening to this? And I'm trying to do this. I love my teams. I care about them.
Yeah.
But they're not getting it. What would be your couple of takeaways on those scenarios?
Well, first off is like, if you want a prime takeaway, what I'm just adding into the notes here is that there's a blind spot assessment to go check out your blind spots. So it's less than 5 minutes of answering some really simple questions to start to allow yourself to see what that might be all about for you. I think, step 1 is like figuring out that you have the gap. Like just bringing the acknowledgement that here's my expectations and here's where people are showing up to. Can I pull apart from going, this is neither good nor bad? And can I find, like you shared earlier, can I find the appreciation for where they're at, go meet them where they're at, and figure out where do we start to co-create some expectations? Is this the right group to grow? Are they at capacity? Are they, did I ask them the questions to find out, is this the environment they want to be in? Like, especially from that leadership standpoint, is like, there's a quote from Jack Welch who like talks about like before you're a leader, it's all about your success, and then when you become a leader, it's all about their success, right? Your success then becomes a reflection of their success.
Yeah. Well, in our leadership program that we have, we talk about the law of the mirror. When we look in the mirror, it's not really the reflection that we're looking for; it's a refraction that we're looking for.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's okay. So one of the takeaways, yeah, for sure. Take the blind spot assessment, understand what your blind spots are, and be on the lookout for your behaviors that are causing them not to behave the way they want to be behaved. I love that. love that.
Yeah. What about for yourself? What's a takeaway they can have?
One of the biggest things I tell people is to show up authentically. Just be vulnerable. Tell people I don't know everything. I'm here to learn with you, and I want to grow with you, and let's learn on this one aspect together.
Right.
CEOs feel that they have to have all the answers, and they don't. They don't have all the answers. That's the pressure that they're putting on themselves. Even leaders, even small business owners, most small business owners are doing really well at the job, but they're still struggling to keep employees happy, keep people motivated. Just let people know I'm a business owner. I don't have culture experience. I don't have HR people. How do we do this?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? Right? And talk and be vulnerable and say, I care for you. I love you guys, but what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And really ask those questions.
I love that, man. Like some people may think vulnerability is a played out word in this day and age, but like, I don't think we've started even to unwrap what it truly means for most people.
Yeah. Vulnerability builds trust. Trust allows true communication and connection to happen.
Yeah.
You and I can sit, and we've done this many times on the deck out here, and had a few drinks, and we've talked and talked and talked. And we built a relationship. But it all comes from me sharing my struggles and you sharing your struggles, and then we build trust around that.
Yeah.
It's not about showing weakness. It's about showing strength on, I need help, and that's what creates a place of an openness for people to say, okay, they are a human being, actually.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Brings that humanness back into the equation.
Yeah.
We're just two souls connecting, so why not just start there?
Mm-hmm.
Brother, I look up and you're right. We're past the 40-minute mark, and I want to be respectful of your time. You've got a lot going on, and I really appreciate you being on the show today. So we're at the part we can give some shout outs. So we just dropped the assessment. Is there anything else you'd like to give some shout outs to, Likky?
Well, you know what? Pick up the book.
All right, let's do it.
Pick up the book. I share a lot of my struggles in the past, what I learned. People ask me, what's your book really about? And I keep on saying it's actually an apology to all of my employees and vendors and family for the last 25 years that I had my IT company. I wish I would have learned what I've learned now back then. But then again, I can't look back. So
yeah. It's
moving forward and saying, this is what I did, and I'm sorry, and here's what I did, and this is what I learned from it. And so I'm moving forward. And if you pick it up, you may relate yourself to a couple of these stories.
Definitely. It's a great read. I recommend it. I've done it, and it definitely you can hear the evolution of who you became and understanding of how you got to be the man you are today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else before we hit my final last question and we let
That's
you go
it,
on?
man. Let's go. Let's transform the world one BS and get the fog out of the way. I love that.
Right. All right. Together we'll accomplish many great things. All right. So before I let you go, I ask every guest now this one question. So we're gonna hop into my time machine. We're gonna go back at least 10 years. And you get to give yourself one piece of advice. It can't be like the lottery tickets or who's going to win the Super Bowl. What's that one piece of raw advice you'd love to give to your younger self?
I love that. And it's funny. And, you say that right now. It's really timely. A few weeks ago, I was sitting with my best friend, and we're sitting there yapping away, and his daughter was there. And she's giving me a hard time. She goes, "Man, you're old." I'm not old. I'm just as old as your dad. And, we're turning 54 next month. And my buddy looks at me and goes, "Likky, we're turning 55. And I'm like, "No, we're not." He goes, "Yeah, you are." And it wasn't the age that got to me. It was because when I was 45, I created this thing called Life by Design, where I wanted my life to be in 10 years. So on the drive home, I'm panicking that I haven't achieved what I needed to, and I've got like 2 months to do it in. And then I had a restless sleep. Next morning, I wake up and I read the goals and the plan and design that I set up, and it was really close to where I wanted to be at.
Oh, incredible.
So, what would I want to change? I wish I would have put bigger goals back then because I saw them coming true right now.
Yeah.
I wish that my design was a little bit different and deeper. So now I have a chance today to write my life by design for 10 years from now. And I'm excited to write it from what I learned. So it's interesting how you can write and create and something will happen.
There's a power behind the writing it out. Actually, I had a couple clients that had brought similar things to the table, and going back, looking at it, it's crazy how often we actually end up and forget. And you sounds like you forgot kind of about what you put on there, but something that you deep down you didn't forget. You'd been working towards it this entire time.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So dream bigger, and accomplish big, scary things.
And get a coach to work with, because I had a coach, and I had a coach for the last 12 years to work through my life by design as well. So
I love it, brother. All right. Thank you, Likky, for being on the show. And to everybody else, thank you for watching. Go find one thing to dream a big, scary, audacious goal. Get a coach. Until next week on Wednesday, I'm Gene, and this is episode 77 of the LiveCast Conversations with